Well, George, I want you to share your epic Mustangs and your incredible wisdom and skill set with connection to energy with the masses.
Right. And there's 50 minutes. Okay. So I Extreme Mustang Makeover. I attempted that in 2015 with my first Mustang. And by all measures, be it Extreme Mustang Makeover measures, measures of the horse training world, all of that, Tahote and I failed miserably. So I just want to let everybody know, just because in the eyes of the world you're judged as a failure doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that the sandbox that they placed you in wasn't your sandbox. So get out of the sandbox. Since 2015, Tahote was my first Mustang that was truly mine. I'd worked with a number of Mustangs beforehand, but Tahote was my first. She was no more. The Extreme Mustang Makeover is taking a completely wild Mustang and in 90 days being able to ride them in an arena in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people and compete against other trainers that do that. I'm not that kind of trainer. I'm really not. It just didn't feel right. It just didn't drive. And then the Mustang I had, Tahote, was definitely not 90 day or 100 day. Have to push the admit button when people come in. So anyhow, Tahote is no more a 90-day Mustang than I was a 90-day trainer. Tahote Mustangs fall into pretty much two categories. You've got the marathon runner, who you think you can round pen, good luck. They'll just go all day because they're used to running 20, 30, 40 miles a day, or at least at a trot, covering range to find food. And they're incredible athletes because to not just survive out there in the wild, but to thrive. I mean, that is their environment. They're living in some of the harshest environments in the United States. And you can say the same with the Brumbies down in Australia. Very similar story. They are thriving in some of the harshest environments in Australia. So I don't want to just, for me, Mustangs are what we have in America to play with. So, but down in Australia, you have the Brumbies. Other places in the world, you have other wild horses that people may have the opportunity of working with. So you've got two types of Mustangs. There are some that will shut down. A lot of domestics will just shut down if they're being trained or whatever. They'll give up running and they'll just shut down. They'll turn and listen to you. Mustangs will run and try and jump out of pens and do everything they can to get away from you because you're perceived as a threat. And they're like, I just want to get away from you. So the whole stick and string and flags and poles and whips and all of that stuff is how the BLM moves the horses from one point to another. And a lot of these Mustangs just are like, I don't want to have anything to do with any of that stuff. And when running is no longer an option, if you corner them or whatever, they're going to turn. And now you're looking eyeball to eyeball with Mike Tyson. Because shutting down in the wild means that a mountain lion is going to have you for dinner. It means that a pack of wolves is going to have you for dinner. Shutting down is not an option. So when running is no longer an option, then you turn and you fight. And you ain't, you ain't Phil farting around. You are bringing your A game. And I don't care how macho, how masculine you are. 225-pound man who stands 6 foot tall is no match for a 1,200-pound Mustang if they decide to come after you. So a lot of the Mustangs that I have here have landed in kill pens because they chose to fight. I've got one Mustang out in my herd that man tried to manhandle her, and she separated his shoulder, sent him to the hospital. I've got another Mustang here that has literally basically been a attack dog and taken bites out of people. So these are not that they are that way naturally. The people that were trying to train them or trying to force them into submission created that type of animal. It's the same with dogs that are mishandled and become, are labeled the vicious dog or what have you. I mean, there's gonna be an animal out there that maybe just doesn't have something right up in the head or is just wired a little wrong. But a vast majority, whether it be the quote unquote dangerous Mustang or the quote unquote vicious dog, it's not the animal, it's the people that did that to the animal. And it's a lot the same with people. Orson was talking about the kids and not having a good father figure or not having a good parental figure, or they have an abusive mom or an abusive dad, and now the kid is just lashing out because that's what they learned, that's what it took for them to survive. So it's very similar with the horses. So when I started up my ranch here, I was like, okay, I don't want the easy peasies. I want the ones that everyone else has given up on. I want the ones that people have dumped, given up on, and I just want them to be, part of the motley herd that now. And Alicia, you were here. Calvin, you were here. You know what the winds are like here. You experienced them firsthand. They get pretty crazy. But in the middle of one of those windstorms, at that time, we had 16 Mustangs out in the main herd, and 2 are up in the training pens. We had 6 or 8 people immersed, so it was almost 2 to 1. But we had, during this 50-mile-an-hour dust storm, Calvin, Alicia, and myself, and a number of other people were immersed with the herd while the storm was raging, and it's pretty crazy. I've got a few pictures I can share of that. Maybe that'll be a good experiment. See if I can share a photo and still talk. It's like walking and chewing bubble gum and patting your head at the same time. Oh gosh, they're going to be back there a ways. This will only allow me. So anyhow, but we were immersed with the herd. And again, these are the same horses that have been known to bite people, kick people, and all of that when they came here. And to enable them to recover or just find their way back to being a wild horse. So that's just one example of the winds. And let's see. So anyhow, I'm going to go to a little video of the horses and just some introduction, whatever. But these horses out here, I believe, are a lot like at-risk children, or even people that are men and women that find themselves in situations where they're either behind bars or they're just not fitting in with society, that sometimes we just take another approach. And like Orson was talking about, slow it down and allow yourself to feel and allow yourself the time to understand instead of demand, can make a world of difference. And that, again, in working with these Mustangs, if you take the macho approach is going to get you hurt. Whereas in growing up, it may have been the macho approach that kept you, at least gave you that veneer that you were a badass and shouldn't be messed with. 1,000-pound Mustang gonna be like, they wouldn't even be impressed when Mike Tyson walked in there. They'd put Mike Tyson in his place. So I mean, these horses are going to be hitting harder than Mike Tyson. Just kind of put things in perspective. So that level of macho and that level of wanting submission or wanting control, you just got to leave that at the gate.